Thank you for doing this.
Pleasure. I've been doing this many years with you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jason Schwartz. You've probably seen me on TV talking with candidates. Many of them you don't know. This one, you know. This is Speaker of the House, and here in Hawaii, Joe Souki. Welcome to the show.
Yes, I always look forward to coming to your show, Jason. You provide a wonderful service to the people.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, and so do you.
I try.
Now, just as a reference, I know you've been in the State House since when?
I got elected in 1982, and my first session was in 1983.
1983, so a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago.
And you've been running, is it every 2 years?
Every 2 years since then.
Can you imagine that? And over the years, I've seen you've had different people running against you, and the results have been similar, how about the same, for a long time. So I know that you've really been able to shape Hawaii and help shape Hawaii for a long time. How are you doing by your own report card? What do you think's going on?
Well, if I was to grade myself, we can always improve. I will give myself maybe a B with some room for improvement.
Okay. As a spokesman for Maui and be able to coordinate our Maui contingency up there, you've been able to, that's the expression, bring home the bacon and bring jobs, bring money, bring a lot of support for Maui County. Are things changing in the legislature, or is it the same kind of way that you do business as before?
Well, of course it's changing. We're more transparent now. You have a lot of younger people that don't have any institutional knowledge of how things became what they are now. And that's good, and sometimes it's bad, because I think first of all you have to give them some orientation as to why we are here now and where we are going, because they have limited exposure, of course, to the past. When they're too young, they're in their 20s, 30s, just got out of school, raised by most of them by middle-class families, went on to good colleges. Very different than those in the past. In the past, they came from plantation villages. They came from completing their tour in the service, in the wars, in the second war, like the 442 and other vets that served, and they had the GI Bill. They went to college, and they came from very modest. So their role was to make changes as to the living conditions, in housing, in working conditions, collective bargaining, those kind of things. That's the things that they were looking at to make life for the laborer better. And now it's quite different. The needs are different here. But we still have poor people that need to be served. We still have homeless that need to be served. We still have a lot of mentally deficient people that need to be served. So there's still much to do yet. But it's just that the culture has changed where we are now to a greater degree. Not entirely, because we still try to enforce them, not enforce, to remind them that what they did in the past, in working conditions for labor, must continue, because you still have labor, because you can go back to the dark ages very quickly, given the flair for entrepreneurship and profit being the motivator and not necessarily using the profits to help the general population. So I think, let me just add another thing. I think the governor, not the governor, the Pope had made a saying that this trickle-down theory historically has not worked well for the poor. Yeah. Has worked well for the rich. but it doesn't trickle down. And the Pope did mention that in one of his speeches, that somehow it has never benefited the general populace.
And I'm sure if he didn't say it, we can say it. It's because people don't employ a golden rule. If that was your wife or daughter or you, would homeless be important then? Do people understand that factor? I imagine that's a big factor when you have to be governing, because making cuts, and we saw you guys take something that was upside down and now it's right side up because of tremendous amount of hard searching on what to cut and what to keep. How do you go through it? How do you deal with that process?
Well, we have to have a balance. And you need a balance, of course. First of all, you need to protect business. Business hire people. So you got to make sure that they have sustainability and they can grow. And so you have to develop a good business climate as you develop a good labor climate so that the labor can be protected and also can share in the rewards of the growth of business.
Why is it so hard to get an increased minimum wage? I know that employers want to keep their costs down, but people having 2 jobs and 3 jobs, and that becomes the income that HUD uses as a basis for affordable housing. That's all wacky. What do you do?
Well, here in Hawaii, it's quite different. We're not Silicon Valley. We're not part of where they have major factories, building airplanes, tanks, and etc. We're basically tourism-driven, and of course we have military. There are 2 major factors for revenue. We have military and tourism. Now, in tourism, generally, in the lower sector of jobs, they don't pay that well. Of course, they have been improving. But we don't have any industries that create good paying jobs.
I've seen that.
We have some as far as in the high tech, but they're very limited. The Maui Research and Technology, the supercomputer, and other growth industries you have here, but very limited as far as good paying jobs.
So necessarily our children find themselves leaving the islands a lot.
They live in the islands, and those that choose to stay, if they're going to support themselves and reach the American dream of having a house and 2 cars and those kind of things, they need to work 2 or 3 jobs. And that has a failure too, as the parents need to be working 2 or 3 jobs. The children are left alone. And that leads to a lot of juvenile problems that have been going up. Because a lot of that now, we're looking at a lot of different problems that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
We look at the autistic problems. We look at attention deficit problems. We look at a lot of behavior problems. And all this, of course, needs to be addressed. But a good portion of it is because the children don't have attention at all. Because the parents are too busy eking out a living so they can support the family and put 3 square meals a day for the child and husband.
Is that the way you've stayed in where you are, because you stay in touch with what's going on, don't you?
Well, you got to stay in touch, and you also have to have compassion. I think for legislators to be successful, need to have some compassion. Things are not black and white. Sometimes you need to make decisions that not necessarily the public will want. We've got to understand our society that we have is on the entrepreneurship. You work hard, you get rewarded. And that was fine in the old days when you could do that, when they had factories, farming, and agriculture. When Jefferson was there, we had farms, people working the farms. We don't have that anymore. Now we have big combines. And so there's not that much of an opportunity to reap the rewards of entrepreneurship and to be part of it, especially in a society like ours. Generally, the American society is work hard, get rewarded, following the French dictum that they had before. And that's good overall. But it doesn't help those who are lesser. And we've grown to a country with a lot of those that are lesser in competency, lesser in capabilities, but still need to be fed. You cannot just discount them. And this is where the legislature can look at that in trying to build this group up so that they become part of the middle class in spite of not having the opportunities like many other communities, like maybe the Triangle in North Carolina and Silicon Valley, where everybody prospers over there, but they need to have the mental capability, the skills. Not everybody has the skills.
How do you keep yourself fresh? You were just talking about, North Carolina and all that. Do you go to conferences and things? Do you share with other legislators around the country and things like that?
Well, I do go to conference on occasion, although lately I haven't gone to for a while, but I used to belong to the Speakers Conference, National Conference of State Legislators, and the Board of Directors of the Council of State Government. I mean, also in the Executive Committee, and both in the National Conference of State Legislators and Speakers Conference. In fact, they're going to be putting a push so that they become the president of the Speakers Conference. That was shocking. But yes, you need to keep abreast, and that requires reading. And of course, I have the luxury of being in for many years. I have tons of information over the years that have been soaked in this old head in here. And every now and then it comes out. It stays in there.
Well, you've been, I don't know if it's controversial, legalizing marijuana. I could make my list. Legalizing marijuana, probably, what do you think of that? Plus or minus?
I see it as a plus in legalizing.
How about, we can go on our laundry list. What do you think of that one? So, could well be a plus. I know there's a thing on election day here about hempcrete. Someone just invited me to.
About hemp?
Making concrete, making building material out of hemp.
Well, that...
Trying to find a way of replacing sugarcane with other things.
Well, someday sugarcane is going to be in the past. It's going to move on. Once the board of directors find that it's not making a profit, and they're probably going to just cut it like anything else. It's not like the old days when you had the Baldwins and others who took care of the people, and it was kind of provincial, not, they controlled. And the controlling was bad, but at least they had some heart to see that the public was taken care of. I come from a plantation camp mentality. I was born in a home every time it rained that we come out with a bucket brigade. Right. I grew up with that. So I understand that. But I also understand those days when they cared for you in some way from birth until death. When you die, they get one wooden casket for you. I remember a truck coming down and an old wooden casket.
Well, it's true. Plantation mentality in here, and with limited high-paying jobs and all the things that we don't have, we have a different culture here, and it's a different kind of thing.
It's a different thing. Now, how much better it is if you're kind of a romanticist like me and said it wasn't that bad. In looking at the real past, well, it certainly can be improved, and that's why it was improved. From the 50s, when you had the warriors who fought in the wars and they finished their college education, first thing they did was improving the working conditions to what we have now. The Amo Cavallo, the David Trapp, and the Najo Yoshinagas, the Mamo Yamasakis, all of these, all contributed to what we have, the McClung, to what we have now. And we have good governors of that, Ariyoshi and Wahe, and we've been blessed with a lot of good governors and good legislators to what we have now. But things have changed. They have changed now. Now, there is not the caring that you had in the past.
Why is that?
They become so blasé, maybe watching television so much. And
desensitization to all the things going on.
Yes, all these things going on. They become blasé, they become bold, they become cold, indifferent. And when you see the crime that's going on, and when you see homeless, and in the old days, when you had a homeless person, They used to come to my house, and we had a very modest income. And my mother always had a plate of food for that person. And my dad made homemade brew, beer. And it was during a time when he was supposed to not doing it, but he made it anyway. And he had a glass of beer. We call it, he always say, little makana. Little makana. Makana is to give in Hawaii, and little is a colloquial expression of just a little bit. But my mother gave him a full plate. During the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, he come, knock on the door, little makana. My mother had a plate waiting for him, or 2 or 3 other people. That's how we took care. You don't do that anymore.
We could.
Well, now too, the numbers have escalated.
Oh, but we have.
Because those days, most people were taken care of some way, but now they're not.
Well, I'm hoping that people will try extra hard now, because there's an extra lot of need. You see it, I see it.
Yeah.
People that we know that were living regular lives are finding themselves compromised at extraordinary levels, I know.
Yeah.
But the good part, I hope, is just what you said, that people do reach out, and I hope that that's something that all of you remember, that public service supplements what we do. You know, the government, when someone needs help, you can send them to the government, or you can help them and then see what else is available. That little bit of help, you know, is gigantic. Otherwise, it's just brutal out there. All these agencies with different pieces of help. Do you think that there's going to be a time when all these systems now in the computer age get updated and everyone speaks to each other?
Well, I think our whole posture of government will have to change from the federal level. Especially on the federal, they've been non-responsive for the most part. And I think they need to be more compassionate and looking at the needs of the people. We're one of the last nations on the supposedly first-class countries that we have, France and England and Japan, Russia, Australia, that provide medical. And not only medical, provide income for everybody. We don't. Obamacare now is trying to reach that point, but they had to make tremendous compromises to get out of Congress with the insurance companies. Now, I'm not opposed to insurance companies, but insurance companies is run by corporations, and they have board of directors. They need to make a profit. The board need to share in the profit. So that limits what you can do. If you look at some of the other countries in the medical, it's quite different. They give you a base, and that comes out of the general fund, and then you can augment if you wish. They give you a Chevrolet plan, if you want to go to a Buick or a Cadillac, unless you have a Rolls Royce, but you can upgrade your plan. But they give you the basics. Everybody have the basics.
Is there a higher taxation base to pay for that?
You would need to. And I think the country needs to realize that the revenue that's coming in is not sufficient to maintain all of the needs that we have. These last 20 years, we've had 3 or 4 wars that took a terrible toll on our revenue picture.
Sure did.
They borrowed money from the Social Security. Now they blame the Social Security system. But no, they were taking money away to balance the budget so they could pay for the war. So now we have deficit spending. We should not have deficit spending. The public complain about we have an unfunded liability in the state and why we need to correct it. And the irony is that we have a terrible unfunded liability with the national government, and they're doing nothing to the Congress to change that around, to take care of that. And that would need an increase in revenue and a cut in cost. You need both. But I don't see too much cuts because you're not getting that much in the first place. But you need an increase in revenue. There's poor that to be taken care of. The mental health people need to be there. That's a growing problem every day. Homeless need to be taken care of. What is the Congress doing about it? Nothing. What they do is they make mandates on the state. They tell the state, you go and do it.
Have you, obviously you know Governor Abercrombie for a good long while.
Yeah.
Have you ever had conversations about that, about how he can be able to help in that way?
Well, you know, the governor is quite a liberal, and I've had many a conversation with him. We think alike on many things, and between you and I wish him well. But yes, we've had, and you know, the governor is trying to push the early childhood education, give everybody an opportunity to have a preschool program.
Yes.
Right now, they don't have that, and I think it would be great for the future. You got the 0 to 8 is the most important year. So this early childhood education where you include everybody in the state, everybody will have an opportunity, will in the future give us a lot of better children, a better population mix as we begin to move up. A lot of children now don't have the opportunity of early childhood education. So when they go to school, they're 3 years behind already because they didn't have the early childhood.
And the thing that also is going on now, that computers and the changes, like here we are, I'm using an iPhone, thank you Apple, to do these shows. Who would have thought? The kids are growing up, they're learning computers better than their parents and their grandparents, and the way information is delivered and everything is so different. It's so different.
But that's for those children that are brought up from middle class, upper middle class families and middle class families. Yes, poor children too, but poor children for the most part don't have that advantage. They don't have computers. What they do is they grow up on the street. Then they look at the idols, the people who are pushing dope and those kind of things. This is the ones that we want to push out. This is why everybody should have an opportunity at an early.
How come you didn't run for mayor? I mean, honestly, you've been here. You could all. I'm thinking that your state understanding could be very helpful in doing things here. Any reason you're just happy where you are?
Well, there was a time I was thinking about it some years back, and I took a few polls, but because of some of the stands that I was taking then, like increasing the excise tax, and I wanted to increase the excise and lower the personal income tax, and I caught a lot of help for that. And,
So far over time, you seem to be on the right train a lot. I mean, is that? I mean,
but sometimes it's not with the right.
Wrong time?
The public is not for it, and so that didn't help. And
yeah.
then there was a situation where coming in mail school, so my polls went down a little bit, and so
In fact, I think that's about the time I was remembering that we met and we started doing these interviews.
Yes, yes.
You came over here, in fact, similar to with John Hills way back.
Yes, and I'm still working with John Hill.
That's
He's
great.
doing a lot of Facebook with me, and John and I go way back, just like with you.
Yeah.
And two good people.
Thank you. I appreciate that you hear what I have to say. I sometimes, not only me, but a lot of people feel they don't get anyone really listening, that you're showing a compassion and understanding that I would be very welcome in some of these other candidates.
Yeah, well, you need to listen. And I usually tell freshmen when they get in, get the mouth and open the ears. And
Speaking of a young guy, that guy, Kaniela Ing,
yeah,
you've probably seen him. Everyone says he's just cranking out bills. When you're young like that, do you work with experienced people to come out with ideas?
oh yeah, he touches base. You got to understand, any bill to get out need not only one person.
Sure.
They need the help of the committee members. They need the help of leadership. They need the help of the administration. It's a combination of things. No one person can do it. Yes, Kaniela has come up with some good ideas. And I think the early voting registration, same day registration,
I think
on
that's
election
terrific.
day, is going to be a great thing to
Yeah.
increase the numbers of people. And that's his brainchild. And we got to give him credit for that. But he did a lot of help in getting the truth too. If some old timer didn't like it, they would deep six it very easily.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've watched, and he's just a ball of fire. But I always think, he was talking about your speakership versus the last speakership, and that there's somewhat of factions and stuff. Politics, you know, we all think politics, and we think of all kinds of
Yeah.
underhanded stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Is politics more open with others than it was before?
I think it is. Let me say this about Speaker Say. I have great aloha for him, and of course we have differences. But Speaker Say was a protege of mine. When I was the speaker, and in fact when I was the finance chairman, Speaker Say was kind of in a doghouse in those days, I would say. He chose the wrong. We had a change in speakership from Henry Peters to Kawakami. Henry Peters was a real strong speaker. People wanted a change, they chose Kawakami. I was on the Kawakami side, Speaker Say was on the Henry Peters side. So he was kind of in a doghouse. But I used to go and visit him every now and then, and I liked him. Younger man, of course. So when I was the finance chairman, I got him to be my vice chairman in finance. Then when I became the speaker, I made him my finance chairman. And he did a good job as finance chairman. However, like a lot of legislators, they all have ambitions, and then he wanted to be the speaker. They probably when a number of people went to talk to him, they had a coalition, and so he got to be the speaker, and I got to take a vacation from being the speaker, albeit a very long vacation, about 14 years. But during that time, I contributed. I was in many committees, in transportation, in House leadership. So Calvin Say was very fair in that. In fact, when I lost the speakership, he cried. And let me tell you, this time, when I met with him, I went and told Cal, I'm going to be looking. In fact, I have the vote to dispose you of being the speaker. We both cried. That's how strong we feel for each other.
That's good.
And he never did condemn me for that. He understood. And yeah, he wasn't happy. You're never happy when you're taken off power. He was the speaker for, I think, the longest speaker ever in term, 12 years as speaker. So when you lose that, you lose a lot. So those around him too were even more hurt. But those things happen. And I felt that it was a time that they needed a new speakership with new ideas. So I came in with a younger group, a more environmentally inclined group, a little bit more balanced. We also had business-oriented and more environmental. My finance chairman is quite conservative. My majority leader is more on the liberal side. So it's a balance that we have.
Okay.
But it was a lot of young people who wasn't out for many, many years. Some of them 15, 20 years on the out. Suddenly they became in.
Wow.
And
they're still around. So
yeah.
Are there new people coming? There's some, but are there new people? Are you finding proteges coming along?
Oh, yes. Every election we look at the cast of characters that they're running for office, and then we see those that have promise. And of course we try to bring them in. As we bring them in, we try to educate them into the process and bring them along so that they be the future leaders. I'm not going to be, obviously with my age, I'm not going to be around that long. A speakership, hopefully we'll leave a little bit longer after that.
I hope so. I was going to say, time to stop. I love when I'm out in the community and I see someone coming incognito trying to, there's Joe Souki.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up a few issues just because, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
GMO labeling. Never mind right now, we have an initiative coming, and a lot more discussion has to happen because I think we can do it all. I don't think we have to lose jobs. I have lots of opinions. But the GMO labeling, I thought that would have been a real good first step, and I am really surprised it didn't just race through. Why?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. I think if you're going to have GMO labeling, it has to be on a national level. Most of the products that we get are national companies that come in here. When you look at the supermarket, they all come from the mainland national. You buy your cereals and et cetera, it's all national. So we cannot change it over here. They got to get a national law. They're not going to change it only for Hawaii.
Can we, I guess we
I
could.
think you can label products that are grown in Hawaii. I think it would be easier in many respects to label organic, and the rest would be GMO. And right now they are labeling organic. So when you go into a store and to a market and you're looking for organic, it'll say organically grown. Okay, you buy that. You don't have to buy a GMO. You have that choice right now.
That's a very good and simple solution, isn't it?
Well, I'm a simple man.
But your point about federal,
Yeah.
you know, how do we influence that? Do you have any way, I mean, do you in the local house have any influence, or does an Abercrombie have influence in such a way to be able to help make that happen? You hear the outcry here.
Well,
It's making our community.
we're a state with 2 congressmen, and of course every state has 2 senators, and 2 congressmen who are with no seniority, very little seniority. So our clout in the Senate, especially with Danny Inouye gone, is just about zilch now.
Right.
Remember, there's 435 members in the House, and they are Republicans now. I'm not condemning them. Republicans are balanced. They're the ones who had Abraham Lincoln. Freed slavery, so okay. But most of their mentality are quite different. The Tea Party mentality is less of government. A lot of Republicans are less of government. They believe in protecting business. So to make the changes in the Congress, in the House especially, probably going to be very difficult. And I don't think our 2 is going to make much of a dent there. Okay. Then you look at, this have to come from the larger states, like in California, where you have a lot of agriculture grown. Now they would have a say in what's going to happen. You get that San Fernando, you get San Joaquin Valley, you get all really cool the crops in there, and a lot of crops are grown there, and a lot of them are GMOs. And rice is GMO.
Oh, yeah.
Wheat, GMO.
Diabetes, insulin is GMO.
Yeah.
So I
Milk
think
is GMO.
the word GMO doesn't need to be the problem. It's more, it gets very specific.
I think the specifics we need to get into it is to look at now if they're concerned about the pesticides, because the pesticides can lead to illnesses, disease, cancer.
Right, that's not GMO, but it's obviously important.
But it's part of the process.
Right.
Of course, most of us are using different forms of pesticides. Roundup, I use Roundup now and then. I keep it away from my toes, but I try to spray it a little bit. Most of us do that. Now they claim that GMO, but maybe some of the pesticides they use need to be changed. I think that's where what you need to have kind of the scientific community, the Congress, and even the legislature need to look at it and make a detailed study as to the kind of chemicals they're using, and to the degree, and how it's affecting the populace. Are we dying sooner because of that? Somehow we're living longer, in spite of the GMOs.
Many of the people I've seen here who have been the most conscious and careful of their foods and intake, dying of lung cancer and breast cancer. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but it's extraordinary to me.
How they smoke? They don't smoke.
No?
Well,
I know, it's sad.
yeah.
Hospitals, money for hospitals and medical. I mean, when I speak to you, I feel really good because you just tell me like it is. No hemming and hawing. Maybe what do I say? I'm not seeing what happens behind closed doors, but you seem real open. Do you find yourself not needing to, let me see if I can ask this in the right way. It's often assumed that things go on behind closed doors. People get money from different campaign sources, and everyone thinks that somehow decisions are being pre-made and predisposed, when I don't feel that when I speak to you. I'm sure you get, contributions from all kinds of people, You ever seem to be an independent guy. How
The
do you
end
deal with
result
that?
is the legislature, and I like to say this.
Yeah.
Great majority of legislators are very honest. They look at the issues and they vote on the merit of the issue. And closed doors, certainly not nearly as much before. I remember when I first came in the House, my old friend, Representative John McGarrett, he came up to me, told me, Joe, you watch out when you vote. He said, you vote the wrong way, the speaker don't want. At night, when you're walking by the rail, they're going to grab you by the collar and throw you over the rail. So one day I voted against what the speaker wanted. That night I'm walking against the wall. I'm hanging to the wall, not staying away from the rail. That was then. You don't have that now. You don't have that now. You get it through persuasion. You sell your ideas. We have leadership meetings. I have leadership meetings twice a month. I have meetings with the chairmen. I have meetings with the members. We have caucuses. We meet with the caucuses. Both the Senate and the House, we have very respective caucuses. We go from leadership. Well, actually it begins with policy. We have a policy committee made up of various groups. They make a recommendation to leadership. Leadership looks at it, and then it goes, they make the recommendation to the caucus. And the caucus is made up of all of the majority members, and the Republicans have their own caucus, the Republican caucus.
You guys work together, pretty much, do you?
On some issues we do. On some issues we're quite different, and well, it should be. So otherwise you won't need different parties.
Right.
So philosophically we're different in some ways. We just need to respect both differences. And right now, because the Democrats are in great majority, the Democrats prevail. But it doesn't mean that we don't listen to them. In fact, you know that I had a coalition with the Republicans. And that's how I had the leverage to become the speaker.
Right.
I had the vote to become speaker with the coalition of the Republicans. Let me say this about that.
Yeah.
They've never come to me and demanded anything.
Do you mean any of your...
Anything extra. Anything extra. But we agreed in the beginning there would be some quid pro quo. But other than that, there's not. Like, give them a little bit. Let them share in a capital improvement projects like everybody else. So they would have a share in a capital improvement. Yeah. And we provided vice chairmanships that they never had before. Joe Hansen, the minority leader, was and maybe will still be the vice chairman of finance, one of the vice chairmen, two vice chairmen, a very powerful committee. So yes, we did that, but during the course, as far as certain bills that they need, they never did come up with that. We had differences. They got up on the floor and they speak against it, speak strongly against it, as well they should.
What subjects am I not hitting? There's so many. Which are your pet things that you in this time want to share with people that you think are important for them?
I don't have any real path. My path is to fill the pukas that we have. The pukas in providing more money for mental health, to expand the facilities for mental health, to provide more financial assistance to Maui Memorial. Or in a case if the state is unable to because of the unwillingness to maybe raise taxes or whatever we need to do to reach that point, then maybe we need to look at partnerships with someone else. But we need to see that people in Maui get the same care that the people in Honolulu does. In Honolulu, right in 1 square mile, you have 5 big hospitals.
Exceptional medical.
And exceptional medical. 5 hospitals, 1 square mile. Maui, 1 hospital, out of Maui, for all of Maui. You live in Kaupo, you get a heart attack, you're mocked when you get here.
Right.
Or even in Lahaina, in Kahana. And worse yet, if there is a traffic snarl. And remember, there's only one helicopter. If 2 people get a heart attack at the same time, we need an operation. One die.
Right.
You flip a coin and one dies. That's the choice we make when we choose it. But that needs to change.
Right.
And I think we're looking at that. I'm disappointed with Maui Memorial in stopping the Molokai unit as far as the adolescent mental health. But they did it because they had to make choices. They don't have enough money. And so this is where the failure, and we need to work harder, is that they got to look, until we get a good partnership, we need to make sure that Maui has the money and opportunity. And that would be one of my paths, to see that Maui is taken care of.
Do you think you're going to retire in the next decade? What are you thinking? I mean, you're still in good health. Obviously, you're approaching middle age.
Thank you very much.
I mean, I hope we all live in a long time, but I don't think I imagine you'd rather not work till you drop, get to time to enjoy your wife and your family and this whole thing. Kind of, I want to say, bring on the new guys.
Well, you know, one thing you learn in politics, never be a lame duck. When you're a lame duck and you say, this is my last term,
Oh, yeah.
your effectiveness is gone. Why are they going to listen to you? They're going to listen to the person that's running for speaker to take your place.
I see.
Or the new organization that will be taking your place. So that's the irony. If I will retire in the next decade, of course I will. I'm not going to be here for 10 more years.
Okay. And thank you for making that understandable. You know, I'm open about things, but you're right. A lot of people are looking to get positioned. Everyone's working
That's
around
correct.
position.
They're positioned themselves.
How have you stayed? How have you stayed so human, so approachable? The people that know you and love you know you're a really gentle, open, caring guy.
Right.
How do you do that all this year? Because I know you have a position of such power. You have to make a lot of decisions that are not always popular.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. The power ends when I get home.
Shift of power.
The shift of power. Then the Speaker of the House is my wife, and she brings me down to her level and to the populist level very early.
I see.
And that keeps me level-headed. So when I go back, I'm hampered by everything I say and do. So I lead two lives almost. One, of course, to keep my wife happy, and the other one to make sure that the state is in good hands. And sometimes tough decisions can be made.
This has been many, many years. Has it been 10, what is it, 20, 25?
Well, I'm going on.
83.
I'll be
93,
finishing.
03?
I'll be finishing 32 years.
32
This
years.
this November.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah. 32
Well,
years.
you've kept it fresh. Every time I speak to you, what I always feel, I mean, it always is amazing to say, but you are the most informed of all the candidates that I'm around. You are on top of everything. So I really commend you for setting a really important standard.
Well, you know, as speaker, you need to do that. Otherwise, because you look at the whole picture. Yeah, look at the whole picture.
Any thoughts of being governor?
No, that's all past. If
All
I
right.
was a younger man, I would maybe look at those things, just like how Iggy is running against Abercrombie, and it's a very tight race right now. But no, at my age, they want a younger person who's going to be full of vigor and vinegar. Although I have some yet.
You got vinegar, I know.
I know.
You
We got some yet. But no, I think you need that younger. And I'm willing to teach and do whatever to pass on to a younger person and to the heirs of the future.
Thank you for joining me here.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
my,
you.
My pleasure. My sincere pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I know that one of your favorites, Joe Souki, one of my favorites too. I'm glad we do this. I hope that somewhere something can get put in. So few of the candidates that I'm seeing now have a lot of money, and it is so hard for the public to get to share this kind of time. If you have an iPhone and you're a candidate, sit with someone, share, and explain a little bit of who you are. These little 3-minute forums are kind of very disappointing, and this is where you get to see who someone is. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again. Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you.